Cameraman Grades, cameramangrades.com. How to film football training and professional consultations for camera operators, video coordinators, and sports video experts at all levels. Find us at cameramangrades.com or contact us directly at cameramangrades@gmail.com for your own sports video consultation. Currently looking for the best camera operator of the 2025 NFL season? These are the best of the best, and we're putting it to the test. Today we're looking at the Miami Dolphins Week 16 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Very excited to get into this one. I'm a friend of the Fin, and let's just jump right into it. Straight pan over and zoom up. Got the Argyle end zone there. Okay, a little bit of back and forth here. Okay, so zooming in, all right, you're gaining a lot of space behind the returner, and then also, there's this option for the kicker to come back into the shot, right? They recognize that kind of late and then zoom over to pick up the kicker, right? So if you can recognize that the returner is going to be going right to left, obviously, so we're going to start moving that direction fairly soon in the process, okay? So kind of gaining a lot of space behind the returner, and then the knee-jerk response to try to fix it, right? If you can avoid that to start, then you don't have that knee-jerk response. All right, this is looking nice and tight to start. Very, very nice. Looks good. Okay, it's difficult when you're in a shadow like that and the extreme brightness on the far side. But they have their settings dialed in really well to accommodate for that. All right, so here, right, right to left movement is a little extreme and then starts cutting off people on this side. We're losing the back coming out of the backfield and then gaining space from the safety, right? So yeah, just not maintaining the framing in a way that keeps all 22 guys in the shot. That makes sense. So, all right. Okay, that works. That looks really good. I like that a lot. Okay, good framing to start. 5 yards. Looks really good. Run recognition, came back to it immediately. This looks to be a pass. There you go. Quarterback rolls out away and keeping everybody in the shot. Excellent job. Again, passing formation here. Single back. Oof. One guy went unblocked around this edge. Okay, so we got some space here behind the safety. Is there anything we can do to tighten that up? We can come down a little bit, we can come up, but let's just see how they use it, right? I mean, they're not necessarily zooming out a whole bunch from that initial state, so they're using what they've got fairly well. Really not bad overall. All right, 4th and 13. They're punting. All right, nice and tight behind the punter. Punts away, keeping him in the shot a little bit. You got a lot of space behind the returner, but really good to be able to see exactly where he's getting it. Overall, I really like that they cut down that space behind the punter, which a lot of teams aren't doing right now. So, okay, Let's see here. What can we do to cut this extra space down? So if you got space behind the quarterback, you got space behind the receiver, you got space here. Everything is just kind of out a little bit from where it could be. All right, let's just see where we could tighten this up at. Right around here, okay, and that's probably going to be about 80%. 75 to 80%. Okay, so there is room to tighten it up. Let's just see how they use this space on a run. Okay, zooming out on a run, so you're going to continue to gain space, and let's just see what that does to that box. Right where we originally started here. If you were to tighten it back down, not a whole lot. You're back down to about 75%. Right? Yep, 70%. Okay, so just that, being out at the margin already to start, anything that takes place within that is going to gain you extra grass, right? We want less grass, more football. This is where we want to be, right? But overall, really, it's really not bad. All right. Great job there. Keeping everybody in the shot. Things progressed very quickly on that play. Okay. You got to be ready for anything. All right, awesome. So the motion changed the framing a little bit. Obviously, the motion man came all the way to the outside, right? So he's coming here. That's going to change your framing, and they accommodate for that. And then moving over to fill that space now that the receiver has vacated. They're coming over to cut down that space behind the quarterback. Still some space behind the quarterback and the safety, but still keeping everybody. And then stopping, right? They're recognizing that they're getting out wider, so they stop their zoom. And that helps a whole lot, right? And then going and finding the ball. Great job. Okay. 5 yards behind the motion man there. So reverse. Quarterback throws a block. All right. And yeah, a lot going on there. They held up with it really well. Nice work. I like it. Okay, so now that bright area on the far side is completely gone now. Now we're completely in a shadow. Changes the way that the camera responds to the lighting, obviously. And you can see it. You can see the difference. They did a great job of accommodating for that. It's a difficult thing to manage those extreme brightness changes, and there's settings that you can set on your camera to accommodate for that. This was done really well. From now on, they've got just whatever they dial it into is going to be set to the entire field, which is helpful. All right, looks good. I like it. Okay. Right at 5 yards to both directions, and they're keeping that, maintaining that throughout the entire play. Little dish off to the wheel route. All right, little over 5 yards behind the quarterback to start. Not bad. But everything they did with that was really good. Okay, right at 5 yards now. Okay, and then using that space. Did not adjust at all. Alright, excellent. Because they know that it's going that direction. Quarterback rollout. Leaving a little extra space behind the quarterback, but that's not bad. They were able to keep everybody in the shot. Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's just see how tight they were able to stay on this, because this is about as tight as I've seen. All right, they've got 5 yards on both directions. But then right here, there's no zooming out, right? And this is that run recognition. This is what I talk about on from all the teams that I've seen. If you can recognize that this is going to be a run, there's no reason to zoom out, because there's no receivers running in every direction, right? They're getting in front of defenders to block. Defenders recognizing the run themselves are now changing direction and heading inside, right? Look how tight that is in both directions, and then zooming up on it. Awesome. Love it. If they could be like that every play, right? If every play can be just like that. Yes, yes. Awesome. Okay, just looking at the edges, right? Okay, we got a little bit of extra space, but top to bottom, they're giving a reasonable amount of space for receivers. Okay, quarterback's filling this edge here. Receivers are filling that edge, right? Here they come, right? There they are, right? Keep with them. Ball's away to the center of the field. Now we're stopping our zoom, and then starting to come back in. Love it. Okay, got a little streak going here. Let's see what we can do with it. Like the tight setup. Okay. That works. I like it a lot. Awesome. Okay. Okay. So what I really liked about that is that they kept the receiver at the top of the screen, right? Instead of zooming up and showing the crowd and centering that guy, they kept that top receiver along the top edge of the screen. So now everybody else is still visible while we still see the receiver making that catch. And how awesome is that, right? I can see all 22 guys in the shot still perfectly. That kickoff was fantastic. I really like what they've put together here recently. All right, now this one not so much. What can we do here? All right, to start, we're already starting kind of at a disadvantage here. Let's see where it is in the box. Okay, you look at this and you say, oh wow, just if you don't have the box on it, just look, oh, that's a decent shot, right? But what if you put the box on it and you actually measure it and you find out that you're at 60% of your frame? 65 at the most, right? If I were building a deck and I got this far and said I'm good, my wife would not be happy with me. Right? So you better get out and finish that so I don't fall through the floorboards, right? All right, so here, now that you've started at a disadvantage, if you're zooming out from there, you're going to continue to gain space, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing here, right? We definitely don't need all that extra space around the edge, and really, we're still in that 65% range, right? They really haven't used any of that extra space that we started with, maybe just a little bit. All right. And then once we get out wide here, now we've got all this extra space behind the safeties. 20 yards? Yep, that's all space that we can cut down and see more football. All right. All right. Getting in there. Okay. Tightening it up again. Hey, they said, hey, you know what? That last play didn't turn out as great as I wanted it to. Let's go ahead and tighten this one up and stay with it. Recognize the run and get in tight. I like it. Within 5 yards on both sides. Quick pitch. Outside. Oh, yeah. All right. So let's, up until this point, let's just take a look. Okay. 5 yards, 5 yards. Still within 5 yards, still within 5 yards. Right here. Look at this. Now they recognize this is a pitch going away from you. I'm going to have to zoom up, and you can start to see where they make that decision. Zooming in. Right? Zooming in. Now once they get to this point, it seems like they're about to zoom out again. Let me see. Yeah, zooming back out. Really no reason to do that at that point. You can stop zooming in, right? But, you know, what did it gain you to zoom out at that point? Zooming in right here. This is a fine frame, right? This is great. You can just leave this for the rest of the play if you want. Zooming out, you know, just to gain an extra however many yards out in front of the running back, right? Okay, so right here, you got 10 yards in front of the farthest guy on this side. Now we've got 15, 20 yards in front of the farthest guy, and that doesn't stop. Why? Because the ball carrier is centered, leaving an entire third of the frame empty. Okay, that natural tendency to just center whoever's got the ball ends up gaining you all this extra space on one side and cutting out what really matters, right? And I'm not saying you have to put this guy right on the edge of your frame. You can give him a little bit of a buffer, right? But not 30 yards, right? 30 yards is a little excessive. If I'm going to say, okay, just, you know, give a little bit of buffer. Okay, I got 30 yards. Well, that's not a little bit at that point. That's everything, right? Right. So centering the ball carrier, if you can get away from it, it changes your framing a whole lot, and it's a huge help for being able to see just more of what's going on. But overall, I'm just going to say that was a good, you know, up until that point, everything that was done really well. I'm just going to go ahead and say that was, you know, overall a very usable footage, right? Once the running back breaks loose and is just running to the end zone, yeah, it's fine. But, you know, if there's a way that we can cut that down, you know, let's do that. Okay. Nice tight setup. Quarterback drops into that space. Awesome. Love it. Okay, the running back vacated the space and the quarterback. Alright, so we got a little bit more space behind the quarterback and the safeties this time. And then zooming out from there on a run play is just going to gain more space that you don't need, right? If you've already got almost 10 yards in both directions, recognize that it's a run. There's nobody running, you know, off your edges. I really like that play. Looks really good. I saw all the detail I needed to. They recognized that it was a run very quickly and then came right back in for it. All right. Okay. Leaving a lot of space behind the quarterback, but still very usable. And again, what they did with, you know, that shot was fine. Just the extra space behind the quarterback made it really tight for the safety on the other side, and I'd rather give the safety as much room as they need, you know, back there. The quarterback, you know, with a decent drop, and then adjusting if he starts to scramble or roll out or any of that. Okay, they're just trying to draw offsides on 4th and 2, so no play. Moving on. Start of the second quarter. Okay, Sun's back. Alright, great job of staying with the gunner on the bottom of the frame. Okay, no rush to the punter, so they dropped him out pretty quick and then got over and found the returner before the ball landed. So great job. Awesome. Okay, you have 3 backfield. Alright, that works. Run all day long, right? 2 backfield. Some space behind the backs. Guess what's going to happen? That's going to vacate. The quarterback's going to take that side. They left a decent amount of space in there, just in case, but they did a really great job with everything during the play. Alright. Drop back. Top to bottom, they're using all that space. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Good. Alright, look at that. Okay. Just some, smoothing out the zoom a little bit would be helpful for the viewer, right? For the coaches and players as they're watching all this develop, to not have those jerky movements, but the goal of keeping everybody in the shot and making sure they were able to evaluate everything was definitely, that task was accomplished. Same here. Okay, good framing. Great job. Looks good. Yes. Awesome. Alright, so let's just take a look at where the quarterback and safety drop to. Look at that. I love it. Just pick a random spot, right? Look at that. So good. Here, okay, you got a little bit extra space behind the quarterback, and still keeping 5 yards behind the safety. Safety's using that space, and then look at that, they use that frame. They stopped zooming out to use that frame, right? We've got a little extra space behind the quarterback. Let's go ahead and use it. They did that. Now they start shifting down the field to see where the ball went and zooming in. So let's just play it from the beginning there all the way through and allow the video to speak for itself. Yes. Awesome. Love it. Looks good. 4th and 6. Punting. Alright. Great job. Keeping the punter in the shot for a second. Finding where the ball lands. Kinda missed where the ball landed. Pretty difficult to manage. If you can get down there, it seemed like a really kind of like a line drive punt to get there so quick. Alright, offsides, false start. Seeing the referee calling it was great. I know exactly what happened on there. I know it wasn't encroachment. It wasn't the defense jumping off sides. It was on the offensive side of the ball. So, makes sense. Obviously, the next play being 5 yards back, tells the same story. But great job on this one, keeping everybody tight to the edges. All right. Now, if they can cut down left to right, yes. Awesome. Okay. Cutting down left to right while having a back coming out of the backfield, right? Right. And look at that. Using that space. Bam. That looks really good. Okay, ball's away. They recognize it and come back in. Awesome. Love it. Let's keep it going. Got some space behind the offense, space at the bottom of the frame, but using it well. And there it is. Love it. That works. I really like that. I love it when teams get really tight on the edges, and they're within a yard or two, but really, being able to keep up with everyone is the top priority, and being able to use as much of the frame during the play is a huge deal, right? Instead of cutting it down to 65%, using it edge to edge, using that extra space that you have along each side as people fill in that frame. And they're doing a great job at that. Yep. Okay. Looks good. At some point they had to kind of zoom out in a rush, right? And that can be a little jarring for the people watching. Not me. It's not for me. It's for the coaches and the players. If it can help them to have smoother movements, let's do that. All right. I don't know if this is a no play or this is just the screen was covered, so they just threw it away. But look at that. Again, what I'm saying, edge to edge, they're using this frame very, very well. I love it. I'm just going to call it. It was good, whether it was a no play or not. We're going to count that one as excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Great job. Okay. So this is the most excellent string I've seen so far in this game. See if we can keep it up. Quick pass out to the outside. Decent. Okay. 3 receivers to the left, single back. Back does not get to the blitz in time, and that leads to a sack. Great job. Okay. Okay, leaving a lot of space behind the quarterback and then zooming out from there. Okay. Still decent use of space there, but you can always cut that down and give the players a little more detail of what they're doing. Alright, special teams. A little bit of movement on special teams, not bad. If you can just lock it down once you get it set up. Kick was good. Okay. You got a game now. Alright, special teams, kickoff to the end zone, right to the goal line, and then here comes the kicker back into the shot. Great job. Fantastic. Man, I saw everything on that. That's really good. Let's see what we can do on this play. Okay, run to the far side. Okay, so it's a slight critique. Obviously, this is usable footage, but it's a run to the far side, and we're zooming out. Everybody's condensing this direction. There's really no indication that there's any sort of receivers pressing the edges or anything like that. And then zooming out again, right? And then zooming back in. And these are micro zooms, like they're really tiny, which means they're not terrible, but also those little things just add up, right? It just makes it that much more difficult to watch as a viewer. Again, not myself, but as a coach and a player. Let's make it as easy as possible for them to evaluate what needs to happen on the field. I love this. Woo! Okay, so nice, smooth movement, smooth zooms, right? Keeping this back in the shot. Keeping this guy tight. This guy's right within a yard. This guy's within 5 yards. He's making a jump on the ball. Yep, there it is. But now we've got this guy taking that space. We're still within 5 yards both directions. And then just coming over, right? And by not making any knee-jerk reactions, zooming out or zooming in, we still see a decent amount of guys in this shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is what I'm saying, should be kind of where you should be looking at, as the play develops. to see as much as you can while still seeing numbers and detail, right? And then they come in to see exactly who did what on that. And I love that. Looks really, really good. They did a great job with that. All right. Within 5 yards, both directions. Okay. Kind of recognizing that the ball was probably coming this way and adjusted down before the snap. They probably see that play 1,000 times during the week. Knew it was coming. Saw exactly where it was headed and just anticipated it. So, all right. Pulling it back, throwing. Receivers everywhere. Okay. Let's just see if we can tighten this up at all. Quarterback, 5 yards. Safety, 5 yards. All right. Zooming out to gain a lot of extra space behind the quarterback. They're almost to 10 yards there. And then they come over and find it. Yeah, you want to keep everybody in the shot, and make sure that you're not missing anything. They definitely did that. Okay. A good amount of space in every direction. Let's just throw the box on it real quick just to see where they're at to start, and then see how they use all this extra space. You can see all this extra space along the edges, right? How are they going to use this as the play develops? To start, they're about 75%, 70 to 75. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Decent. Really good. Okay. I always look to see if somebody's running off the edge, right? Obviously the ball's away and, these guys are just kind of running off the edge. He's running this defender off as far as he can. If they are going to leave the screen, is there anything we can do to keep them in longer? And I'm just looking at this extra space behind the quarterback and saying yes. Okay. And they do move over. Now they pick him back up again, right? And so that's kind of what I was getting at, is if you're going to cut the quarterback out, go ahead and keep that guy in the shot and make that adjustment. Okay. All right. So run all day long, right? There might be a pass to this back coming out of the backfield, right there, right? They're making this play action fake, but that's not happening, right? And if it does, it's already in the shot. I love this. This is all developing this direction, and I can see that. And as a defensive coach, I can say, hey, this could be a problem for us, right? We have to account for this and this in both directions, right? And how are we going to do that? But by zooming out here, we're just gaining more space and then creating more grass and less football, which is the opposite of what we want. Okay, we're less than 70% at this point, and by creating all this extra space. All right. Okay. Same thing, recognizing that this is obviously a real outside run going the opposite direction. Zooming out at all is going to not be the right move. Nobody is running routes anywhere. Nobody's giving any indication that you would want to zoom out for any reason. Even the defenders are not even, not biting at all on any sort of routes. So as a safeties coach, can I say, is there anything that we can do for this guy to get over there to make that play? Is this guy shedding this block correctly? Is this guy getting off of his block to be able to make a play, right? And then from the offensive standpoint, are the guys blocking all the people that they should be? I'm going to guess yes, given the outcome of the play, right? So, special teams, extra points are good. It means we're scoring touchdowns. Love it. And it's good. Kickoff. Sweet. Nice job. Tightening it up. And the kicker makes the kick. Yeah! Kicker coming in to make the tackle. I love it. And I saw it, right? I could see the kicker getting down there and getting into the frame, right? They didn't keep the kicker in the shot initially. He re-entered once the play got to that point. And here he comes. Bam. Making the tackle. Love it. All right. Extra space behind the quarterback. Empty set. Obviously a pass. Okay. Looks good. Okay, tightening it up within 5 yards, both directions. And how are they using it? Awesome. Let's go. Okay. Right here. Right? 2 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards total. Right here. Still good. Ball's away. Where did it go? Went here. Right? I can see that. And then zooming in just to make sure. We got number 1. Got the defender on it. We can check the numbers. We can check the personnel that was on the field. Looked really good. And it all kind of started by tightening up and making sure they're tight to the edges, right? And then everybody stays in proportion really well because of that, right? Once you see that we're tight to start and we can just roll with that for the entire play. Motion coming this way doesn't affect anything, so there's no change. Yes. Fantastic. Okay, awesome. All right, so this guy coming on. Where is he coming on? Coming out of the backfield? Oh, he's tight end. Okay, so wow, he's really kind of wrapped up in here somewhere, and then pops loose, after the play. All right, but everything that happens to the edges, tight to this edge. We're still within 10 yards here. Okay, making sure that everybody's staying in the shot. There's obviously a lot going on. And then finding where the ball went, and then going and find that tight end. Rumbling, stumbling down the field, right? Love it. Fantastic. Always like it when the tight ends bust one loose. Having been a former tight end and tight ends coach, I always root for them. Okay, so just for context, this is a two-point game. Bengals are up right now, and they're about to bust one into the end zone. Okay, I really like the fact that they, stayed in there tight and, saw it coming all day long. There was no reason to zoom out or anything like that. Same thing here. Wow, guy coming off the edge. All right, he could be a problem if you're the the Bengals special teams coach. You might be identifying that very quickly. All right, special teams kickoff. Coming over, seeing it, tightening up. Yep, and then here comes the kicker back into the shot again. Yeah, looks good. Very, very, very useful special teams footage on that, on all these kickoffs from what I've seen. Okay. Using the space well. Alright. Is there anything we can do to tighten this up? There's space behind the quarterback, right? If we were tight here, we could tighten this up, or just leave that extra space behind the safety, right? And then once they start to loop around, you can keep that tight on that edge, and then zoom, because you're not tight on this edge. Then when you do need to zoom out with the safety, you're zooming out and then creating more space, and that kind of puts us into this range. Less than 70%. Okay, you look at it and it doesn't look bad. It looks like, yeah, we've got everybody in the shot. That works. The coaches can see it, and that's true, right? But if you're only using 70% of your frame, you're just leaving a lot on the table that they could be seeing a whole lot more going through it. And then, once they see that there's nobody, going any farther out in any direction, I see, the crowd on the far side at this point, and an extra, 15 yards behind the deepest man. That's the point where I would say, like, zooming out isn't going to help, and you can see it right here at the very tail end. Zoomed out to here, stop, and then zoomed out again before zooming back in. Okay, so just recognizing where the play is going and keeping it as tight as possible can make a big difference. Alright, getting down to the end of the half here, so they're making some adjustments on the fly. Quick pitch throw out to the outside, and defense read that pretty quick. Looks good though. Alright. Great setup. Motions not really changing much. Okay. Yeah. Everything about that looks good. Safety was really tight on that edge. And if you have any space behind the quarterback, I always recommend giving the safety more space. Yeah, these punts are just line drives, really deep, really fast. Okay. Low hang time, very quick. Well, they did a great job with it, right? The last time when I said that the punt was more of a line drive and they didn't quite see the statistics on it, didn't see where it landed in the end zone, they made that adjustment very on the fly, right? Very quickly they said, hey, the last time my punter wasn't able to see exactly where that ball landed, and I need to make that correction for my players this time. Okay. Start of the second half, kickoff. Excellent work. Okay. All right. So the one thing I keep seeing over and over again is all this extra space behind the offense, especially with this formation, right? Quarterback's here. So if these guys are running forward, that goes from, even if the quarterback drops back to here, he's just going to have a whole lot of extra space back there, which is fine. But what do you do with that space, right? Are we going to zoom out just to keep extra space, or are we going to allow people to fill that frame? Let's see what happens. Zooming out on a pitch going away from you. Okay. And by doing that, it creates this framing. Okay. Let's count the quarterback as out of the play at this point and say we're just going to focus on these guys here. Okay. If you just look around the edges, you can see how much extra space there is. But when you put it down in the corner and then actually measure it, you're about 60% of your frame, right? If I was only effective, 60% of the time, that would be a failing grade, right? I would be not very helpful for my team. And on this play, your screen is only effective 60% of the time because all the football is only right here. Okay. If you are going to say that you need to keep the quarterback in the shot, certainly can have that conversation, but they weren't doing that either, right? They dropped him almost immediately after that anyway. All right, same thing. Is there anything we can do to tighten this up? It's a same exact pitch outside, going away from you, and let's just check it again. Okay, again, quarterback's out. If we're going to include him, and say, yeah, we will include the quarterback in this, even at that, you're still less than 70%. Okay. Within 5 yards, both directions. Quick toss out this side. Okay, they're really, well. Alright, so the Dolphins offense is really pressing the edges right now, right? They went 2 quick pitches that side and then a quick toss out this direction, right? Well, they must be seeing something, that is going to work out there. But when we do this, are we centering the running back? This is the center of the frame right here. This is the running back, right? So the guy with the ball is exactly in the center of the frame, leaving all this extra space this direction, and then whatever is going on down here. Just a sea of turquoise down here at the bottom. Okay? And then again, still centered there. Okay. Oh my goodness, ball's out. All right. Let's see what we can do here. So this is a wide set, empty set. Okay. No backs in the backfield. Receivers are spread out, sideline to sideline, basically. Right. And so anything we can do to cut this space down, the quarterback's going to take, 1-2 step drop and start identifying where he needs to go. We are seeing this guy fill that frame, so that's that edge of the frame, which is great. But by by having that extra space to start, we're just gaining space in behind the safeties, right? So if we could tighten it up, not saying that we have to, but if we could, this is where I'd tighten it up to, right? And even press it this direction to show more space behind the safety, less space behind this receiver, unless he's going to turn and just catch a pass right here. Even at that, I'm not expecting him to drop back. If he does, you can certainly accommodate for that. But very rarely do I see a receiver drop back like this unless it's a double pass situation. And that happens, right? A double pass situation. But playing the odds, football is a statistical game. If the coaches play the statistics, they look at the statistics and tendencies of offenses, of defenses, of coaches' decision making. We can do the same thing as filmers and say 99% of the time this guy's going to be moving this direction. Worst case scenario, he's going to turn and take a quick pass here and then run up the field. So let's just see what happens. He vacates that space, so if you were tight on this edge, it would be a whole different frame with the quarterback, having that space. And then you can tighten all this up behind the safety then. All right. 5 yards, both directions. Not that you have to have 5 yards, but if you do, it makes for really good tight footage. Anything inside of that is, extra tight. But if you need to keep that 5 yard buffer to maintain everybody in the shot, go ahead and do that. Okay. So here, safety drops out the right side. Is there anything we can do to keep him in for a little bit longer? Right? I'm going to guess it's zooming out just a little bit. Right here. At this point, you're either zooming out or dropping the quarterback. If you're going to say the quarterback could still have the ball and he's rolling out this way, then you want to zoom out, because then you're expecting pass, right? Then you're expecting routes to start taking that space, and the safety has to be a part of that. But even on a run, I want to see where the safety makes that decision to run back up and make that cut. Okay, we never quite see him. Once he leaves the frame, you never see him again. All right. Nice. Okay. Completely different there. Run going straight ahead, recognized it right away, and then came in accordingly. 4th and 1. They're going to go for it. Straight ahead. Yep. No movement from the filmer. He saw it coming. It's a quarterback sneak, right? What do I need to zoom in for? What do I need to zoom out for? Again, playing the statistics. 4th and 1. How often is it a quarterback sneak? In modern NFL, it happens quite a bit. There was a time when, even at 4th and 1, they weren't sneaking very often, preserving the quarterbacks, and that changed at some point. At some point, the coaches really started to say, if we're that close, we want to keep the ball, we want to keep it going. Wow! Taken to the air. Gonna score a touchdown. Love it. Special teams. Extra point is away, and extra point is good. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay. Good amount of extra space around the edges, but still within 10 yards, and they used it well. Great job. The right to left movement was really the defining factor there. They can move right to left and then keep everybody in the shot as the play develops. Fantastic. Great job. Awesome. Okay. Wow. Really, couldn't have done that much better than that. A lot of guys going a lot of directions, and the ball pops up, keeps it in the shot. You can see where the interception was made, and going back the other direction. All right, let's just take a look at this. Okay, you got a little bit of space behind the quarterback. You can cut that down and then give more space to the safety. That way you don't have to zoom out as much. But guess what? They kind of have to zoom out a little bit because they've got guys going sideline to sideline, right? And so they're recognizing that there is a point where you don't want to zoom out any further than that, because you're going to be gaining more space, more of the sidelines, more equipment managers and things like that on the sidelines that Isn't football on the field, but to stay in there pretty tight is always going to be helpful, and they did a pretty good job of that. Okay, tight formation, handoff up the middle to the end zone. Woo, let's go. Okay. Really did a great job of using the frame that they had there. Okay. The guy coming off the edge again. Right. Okay, good. Let's get over and see where that ball landed. Well, not quite. Okay. Alright, definitely want to see where that ball landed. I can guess, where it was on that. But would love to be able to see that for kicker statistics. Alright. Looks good. Looks really good. Run coming this direction, recognizing that you don't have to zoom out very far, if at all. Okay. But people are going to start to fill that frame, and then people are going to start to condense on that running, on that back with the ball. Okay. This is just fantastic. What? Let's go. Alright. Let's see here. Bam. Okay. Bam. Bam. All this. Right? This is a play that spans, 55 yards. If you look on this far side here, maybe a little, not as much on this side, but there's a lot going on in a lot of different directions, and he's ripping it up the sidelines. Okay, so what I like about this is that they didn't center the ball so much; they just let everybody play within the field, right? There's a little bit of space down here, but that's, they're not cutting anybody off across the top to show the Gatorade, right? They really kept everybody in the frame really well. Okay, kept a lot of space to start and just kept that in the shot the entire time, right? You can let it play out, and obviously if you've got that extra space and it's a run, I'm going to say this is a pass. Yep. Okay, roll out, and there you go. All right. Well, I like this. Okay, I like this. All right, now we're starting to see some crowd on the far side. We see sideline to sideline, but you have to kind of be out this far in order to keep everybody in the shot. They're still within 5 yards in both directions, right? And then once this ball is away, centering the ball just shows you crowd and crowd and crowd and more crowd, right? So if you can just keep that keep the frame on the field, and then zoom in slowly as you pan up, or pan up slowly as you zoom in is what I should probably say, would make a huge difference there. Just to keep the focus on the field and not on the crowd. Okay. All right. What do we got here? Safety. Safety. Steps off and then changes directions. Okay. Sideline to sideline, you definitely got routes pressing the edges, right, top to bottom, right, and then you've got guys coming off the edge here. So you've got space behind the quarterback, and then the safety dropping out this side, right? If I've got space behind the quarterback and the safety is, not fully in the frame, I can say that's an easy fix that can be adjusted to keep this safety. I want to see his footwork. These athletes are fantastic at changing direction at a very fast pace. I love that. I think it's an incredible feat, and I love being able to watch it. And the coaches have to be able to see it, right? So if there's anything we can do to keep that in the shot, let's do that. Fourth and 1, tight formation, probably going straight ahead. Oh, and he slips. Okay. All right. So we're within 10 yards in both directions, but with a tight formation like this, I'm just expecting that, and then kind of zooming in at the end. If you have to zoom in at the end to keep a tight shot, then you could probably just tighten it up to start. Not bad though. The main thing is just letting it play out and letting the play develop on its own without adding any inputs, zooming in or out, right? Makes a huge difference. Nice work. Yep. Within 5 yards, both directions, tightening it up to make sure we're staying in tight. Okay. So this is good. If there's one critique I could make, just all the little micro adjustments, right? Zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, right? If you can cut those out, it just makes it a whole lot easier to evaluate. Micro, and then the full pullback to make sure you're keeping everybody in the shot is wonderful. Okay, great job. Love it, right? That's where it's at, right? Keeping up with these athletes running that far down the field in a play that could go in any direction, man, that's why they're the best of the best. That's why I have so much admiration for the people that do this on a day-to-day basis, right? They are truly, truly good at what they do. And there's always room to improve, right? And there's always something that we can do to recognize when you're doing something really well and replicating it, and then getting out away from anything that might not be as useful. Having space behind the receiver on this side, and then dropping the quarterback while he's got the ball off of this edge, right? It's an easy fix, and something, in a chaos play like this, right? This is obviously the quarterback starts scrambling around. He was going this way, now he's going that way. That's a major shift in the direction that the play is going. Just got to be ready for it. Third and 3 at the goal line. Yeah. Yep. That works. That looks really good. They used the entire frame as best as they could there. Special teams. Tight setup. Leave it alone. Nobody rushing off the edge this time. Awesome. Okay. Special teams. Kickoffs normally follow extra points. From what I can tell, statistically, seems to be the case, right? Panning over, seeing those statistics, and then now we're in all 22 again, right? Kicker re-enters the frame. That looks fantastic. All right. Okay, whoa. Okay. We got 1 yard behind the safety and a full 5 yards behind the running back, right? Let's reverse that, right? If there's 1 yard behind the running back on this side, that puts it to the 17-yard line, okay? Let's say the 17. Now let's see where the quarterback drops to, okay? He does roll out past the 17, so we would have to adjust that side, but we could start here and then not have to make any adjustments until he starts to press that edge, and then put him right here, right? And then now we've got that same framing here. All right. So I love to have a little more space for my safety because, again, I don't want him stepping off the edge here. I don't want the quarterback to either, right? But if we've already got some space behind him, if we were to say that we're going to keep within 5 yards from the quarterback, that would at least be the 16, right? But all in all, they really did a great job of keeping everybody in that shot. The safety never actually did cross off the frame, right? So good. Wow. Awesome. Man, this is textbook stuff, right? Pretty close to 5 yards, pretty close to 5 yards. But look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, quarterback's nice and tight on that edge, giving a little extra space for the safety, right? As he's running with, look at this guy coming bolting down the field, right? Definitely want to keep up with that. If you can see that out of the corner of your eye, right? I'm checking the edges here to make sure my safety, my quarterback don't drop off the edge, but I see this receiver just at a full sprint at the top of the frame. Yeah, you want to make sure you keep them in the shot, and they do, right? You can see it right up until that point, and once the ball's away, zooming in. So, wow, I love it. Okay. Run recognition, right? It's a run. Nobody really running routes. If we're zooming out at this point, if we're zooming out beyond this point, we're going to continue to gain more space. Let's see what happens. Still zooming out and then zooming back in, right? So if you can catch it earlier, right, and recognizing that there's really nobody making those moves to press the edges of your shot, quarterback immediately turns around and just looks to see where the ball went, right? He's not running a rollout fake at all. One step, right? So we can just recognize it earlier. It can make a huge difference just staying in tight and allowing that zoom out as you're doing that. It adds more for the people evaluating it, the players and the coaches, to have to filter out, okay, as they're looking through this, right? And obviously, sometimes it's a necessity. You got to zoom out with the players, right, to keep up with all that, and they can, filter that out and then assess it accordingly. But in this case, they don't need to filter it out if you don't add those adjustments in. In this case, on this play, you do, right? Because the safety is dropping much more significantly than they did the last time until this point right here, right? So you're keeping up with them and then zooming back in at the same speed as the safety. Really great job. Okay. Fourth quarter. All right, heading in. Can the Dolphins stop them from scoring another touchdown here? Roll out. Ball's away. Fantastic. Wow. Okay. So here, edges, right? Here's the edge. Now, is it a run? The run recognition? No, the rollout recognition, right? Quarterback takes that frame, that's edge of the frame, and then the safety's still here, and the safety's now making adjustments according to the routes that are being run, and they're gonna get it to the back, coming out of the backfield. Okay. or the tight end, right? So awesome. Fantastic. That play was essentially exactly what we saw, previously, but going the other direction once they switched for the fourth quarter. Okay, quarterback's tight on, quarterback has some space and the safety's tight on that edge again. Right, so it didn't look like he came off the frame at all. Yes. Wow. Wow. All right. I like to go to the widest point, which is here. Beauty. Wow. Look at all that football. I love it. Right. Let's go. Fantastic. Special teams. Set it up right. Lock it down. See what happens. Awesome. Lock it down with an asterisk that everything goes according to plan. If it doesn't, then you're on your own, right? Whatever happens after that is a free-for-all. All right. Zooming over, panning over, zooming in. Kicker is going to re-enter the frame. There it is, all 22. Beauty. Okay. Fourth quarter, Miami's down, so they might be making some adjustments to what they're going to be doing here. Passing, more passing downs. Getting the ball moving. Quick pitch. Outside. Okay. Or maybe they're saying the best way for us to break one loose is, keeping the ball on the ground and not jumping off sides, right? Okay. Just responding to what's going on the field, right? That's where my mindset is. How can we respond to everything that's happening the best we can, and keeping these guys in the shot is the task at hand, right? Okay. Okay, there's some space to tighten this up. Still keeping everybody in the shot really decent. It's a great evaluation tool. As a coach, I got to figure that they're looking at that and saying, I'm seeing everything I need to out of this. Let's see if we can on the punt. Okay, there's the punter statistics. Punter's re-entering the frame to make a play. Love it. Okay, all right. Look at that. That shift. Didn't need to adjust anything. Everybody shifted within the frame. Fantastic. Awesome. Third and 8. Think this would be a passing down. Single back. Guy in motion. Drops back. Passes away. Wow. Alright. Look at this. Okay. How well are we using the frame? Top to bottom? Yes. Okay. No higher than the sticks on the far side. And then keeping this guy in the shot here. Here's a guy on this side. Here's a guy on this side. This is all four edges of the frame have guys in them. I love it. Look at that. And then we're going to need to tighten it up, right? Awesome job. Okay, 4th and 4. Okay, hold up a second. So we got good framing here. Nice and tight behind the punter. Okay, but then there's this motion up which cuts off the guy at the bottom of the frame, which I'm not understanding why that would be. Maybe just an inadvertent, bump to the camera that kind of sent it in the wrong direction. Look at this, though. Okay, there's 21 guys in this frame. They just dropped the punter out here. Here's the punter. Okay, and then right here, they zoomed out. These are still the gunners. This is still all the blocking. And now the returner enters the frame. That's 21 guys right there. Okay, minus the punter. That's so fantastic. Okay, maybe dropped out one guy there, and then a couple of guys there, and then wow, look at that. Okay, as far as punter statistics, that one should go in the books. But as far as what the filmer did there, also fantastic. Awesome. Wow. What a fantastic job. Look how tight that was. Let's keep it going. Oh, okay. Alright. So, if I can critique one thing here, it's just before the play, there's just a lot of these little micro zooms. Like pulsing. Zoom, 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 zoom. Okay. Every one of those little adjustments is just one more thing that your brain has to filter out while you're watching. So if you can cut that down, it just allows the players and the coaches to see that much more clear of a picture of what they're doing on the field. But, I mean, that was really good. Okay. I think the mentality behind those micro zooms in saying, I want to get this better, I want to refine this, right? I want this to be that much better, is the correct mentality to have. But in doing that, let's also smooth it out and make it as useful for the coaching staff and the players as possible. Which they are. I mean, this is very usable footage. This is fantastic. Not perfect. Okay. I haven't seen any perfect film yet. I think you can get close. I think it's kind of like the goal on every single time you take the camera, right? Every time you take the controls, should be to do it perfect from beginning to end. It's a fine goal to have. Wow. What a play. Love it. Okay. Wow. Really running downhill. Love it. Same. Outside pitch, right? Fantastic. I didn't see anything about that entire drive that really caught this filmer off guard, right? What a just complete control of the craft of, filming football games. Special teams, kickoff. Yes. And then zoom in. It's 22 guys. That works. Nice job. Okay. Getting down to the last 2 minutes of the game here. I'm about to hit the 2-minute warning, so kind of finishing things out. All right, let's just take a look. You got to stay with it through the entire game. You got a lot of space behind the quarterback and no space behind the safety. Okay, they did zoom out to keep up with him. All right, but in that case, zooming was kind of unnecessary if you just recognize that you've got that extra space behind the quarterback. 4th and 4, punting. Okay, special teams. Punts away. Keeping the punter in the shot for a second. And then now we've got 21 guys. Everybody in the frame. Pretty tight to the edges. Looks great. I mean, I'd say that has been a real strength in one of the most difficult things to keep up with throughout this entire game has been everything that's gone on in the punt game and kickoffs. Okay, look at that. Great framing. Bam. Just pick a spot, right? Bam. Bam. All this, right? There's a guy. Here's a guy. Ball's away. Let's go find it. Fantastic. Okay, we're under 2 minutes, and Bengals are up big on the Dolphins here. They're just kind of closing out the game the best they can, and the filmer's just doing a great job of keeping up with everything. Regardless of where you're at in the game, you gotta, finish the task at hand. Okay, a lot of space behind the quarterback to start. No space behind the safety, but came over, stayed with the safety perfectly, expanded out as needed. Looks good. Okay. Downhill running. Yep. Man. Like that number 5 coming out of the backfield. 4th and 1. Straight ahead. Gets the 1 yard. Probably going to be enough to finish out the game. Great job. And game over. All right. Wow, Dolphins. Looking good, man. Really liked a lot of the things I was seeing. And always room to improve, as I've said before. But there's a lot of really good things that the coaches are seeing from what the filmer's doing, right? And how important it is for the filmer to get the best shots for the coaches. And we're seeing it here. So out of 152 plays, 140 were positive. That's a score of 92%. 57% were excellent, so that gives a little bit of a boost to that, putting it up to 97.76%, almost to that 100 mark, right? So really doing a lot of things really, really well. And some things that can be cleaned up that would, just kind of push them over the edge, and tightening up and making sure that you're keeping guys in the shot at all times. So great job. Very excited to see what the Dolphins film crew does for 2026, and best of luck.